Dyson College 1980 alum. It's great to see everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today from Set It a Super Bowl. Maral, MJ, thank you so much for being with us today. We greatly appreciate it. We will have an opportunity a little later in tonight's session for you to ask questions, which you can either post in the chat box, and our Director of Alumni Engagement, Samantha Gordon, will call upon you, or you'll have the chance to raise your hand and be recognized. It should be a great time asking MJ questions. It really is a thrill for us to have you join us. We really do greatly appreciate it. It is now my pleasure to introduce you all to Pace University's president, Marvin Krisloff.
Thank you, Gary. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you. We want to thank all of you for being here. And I especially want to thank Maral Javadifer, who invites us to call her MJ, which I appreciate, for coming back to visit her alma mater. There's a lot of excitement about MJ and Maral's accomplishments. And so I know people are really looking forward to hearing from you. In 2012, she graduated from Pace after 4 years on our women's basketball team, 3 years as a starter, and final year as team captain. In 2019, by then she had received a doctorate in physical therapy. She was hired by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a strength and conditioning coach, and she made history, as we know. With Maral and Lori Locust, a defensive line coach, the Bucs became the first NFL team ever with 2 female coaches. And then just last month, in case you missed it, Maral made history again when Tampa Bay won Super Bowl 55 with her coaching from the sidelines. And we know you made the difference. At Pace, we always say we help our students become leaders in their field. Maral has proved more than that. She's arrived here as a student athlete, determined to play basketball. She got passionate about the field of sports medicine, and then she's gone on to achieve such great success. So we're really, really proud of you. Our women's head basketball coach, Coach Carrie Seymour, who is an enormously successful coach, recruited Maral to Pace and then guided the Setters to 3 NCAA tournaments in Maral's 4 years. Wow. Today, Coach Seymour, who has won 486 games in her 29 years here, is going to lead a conversation with Maral, and she'll also help field some of the questions. Coach Seymour, the ball is yours.
Thank you, President Krisloff, and thank you for joining us. We feel like we're just kind of going along for the ride. You know, somehow we feel like we're a little bit famous as well, just because we had the opportunity to coach Maral and to play with her. I brag about her all the time. I'm sure she's tired of it, how much I brag about her, but it's such an amazing, amazing honor to have a Super Bowl championship. And I guess what I'll start off with a little bit about how our relationship with Maral started, and we can kind of go from there and about how your journey transformed into where you are right now. And I know you're on to bigger and bigger and bigger, better things as well. You're not at your peak goal yet, I don't believe. We met Maral, we saw her start playing basketball probably sophomore season in high school. Katrina Blow, who's on the call, was our assistant coach then. Maral played for a very talented Mary Lewis Academy girls basketball team. Very successful. First 3 years, we recruited Maral throughout the AAU season and following her junior year, and we offered her a scholarship. We were always very, very impressed with her work ethic, her leadership, her just the way she brought the team together. She seemed like she was everybody's friend, and she was also a very good leader. Unfortunately, during the fall, prior to her senior year, at a fall AAU event, Maral tore her ACL. We had already offered Maral a full scholarship, and a lot of people at that point would hit the panic button and rescind the scholarship offer because, now you're getting someone and it's going to be unknown. But we were not honestly one bit concerned. And if anyone wants to ask Petrina later, I think she can confirm that. We weren't concerned. We were very impressed with Maral's reaction to the injury, her dedication to getting herself back on the court. We really believed she was going to be a great leader for us and a great player. And so fortunately for us, she decided to come to Pace. You know, 4-year career record of 85-36. Like President Krislov mentioned already, 3 NCAA tournaments. Maral played in her freshman year she played in 25 games. After that, started or played in every single game the remainder of her career. Huge part of our success was Maral was always willing to do the work nobody else wanted to do, except for maybe Kristen Conley, who would do the same thing. Just wanted to guard the other team's best post player, rebound, make sure Brittany Shields didn't get beat on defense so we could keep Britt in the game. All of the small things that helped us win games, and that was a lot of times didn't get the credit for or the recognition, but certainly was a big part of why we had such a great run of success during that time. So that's my background history of how we met Maral. And I will say, to get this over with, this joke, I always mention it, another key ingredient, a key factor in our recruiting process was Maral's mom, who we were so impressed with on the visit. We were like, I don't care if Maral even plays. We've got to get her on this team so that we can be associated with her mother. I'm sure Maral will get into a little bit of the background about her parents and where they've come from. And we were just so impressed and so happy. And we're thrilled that we can call you an alum. And again, somehow we all do feel like we're a little bit famous too. So Maral, you want to expand on that part of your journey here?
Sure. President Krislov, thank you so much for that introduction. And Carrie, I'm so excited to do this with you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for that introduction too, Carrie. I think a lot of the reason why I'm sitting here today with not my Super Bowl ring yet, but the ring to come is because of your leadership and the way you coached us, and a lot of your coaching style I was able to take with me. I think, being a servant leader is something that stands out. And I'm going to speak about a little bit about how I got to where I got to, but also what you taught me and what I've taken with me to the Bucks today. And so I think a lot of this, my ACL afforded me the opportunity to see things in a different light. You have something that's so close to you that gets taken away in an instant. And at that age, I'm immature, young, just developing, and thinking about my only goal was basketball at the time. And so I had no other option. School wasn't an option my parents weren't able to pay for school. And so the Pace University and the women's basketball team affording me the opportunity to play at an elite level and attain a degree that further allowed me to pursue my career is something I'll always be grateful for. So thank you so much for that. I'll always be grateful for that. But, you have something taken away from you and you have two options, right? You either fold and wither away or do something that wasn't something you were passionate about, or you use it to your advantage and try to excel and take it to the next level. And so it wasn't just about basketball. And from the get-go, as an organization and as a team, we believed in that. Our GPA, Carrie, if I'm not mistaken, as a team was always great. We were surrounded with mentors and tutors that were willing to help us out in any way possible. I started as an accounting major actually at Pace University, and it wasn't something that I wanted to do, but it sounded good. But with that being said, I had the support of Pace and the women's basketball team to push me towards finishing my prerequisites for a physical therapy degree in a very short, in about 3 years actually. And if it wasn't for you guys, I don't, and my roommates and Brittany and the whole team, making me stay in my room and studying for hours on end, or, uh, doing the little things, I'll always be grateful for. And so I say that to say this, I think, um, being able to take your, failures, or however you want to see it, and using it to your advantage is um, always going to be something to strive for. And so after completing my degree at Pace University, I decided to do an internship at New York Medical College right around the corner. And uh, it was I remember you allowed me to go on a visit, and it was right after a game. I had an interview and I got accepted, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is a done deal. And so I continued my doctorate degree 3 years after that. And while doing that, I had a passion for helping athletes excel in any ways possible. And by that, I just mean um, I was able to sit in the shoes of others because I was in a similar situation, and individualizing um, programs and surrounding myself with other people that were a lot smarter than me at the time to learn from them. And so one of the biggest things I think all of us can take away, and I'm still learning to do this, is create relationships, communicate, find mentors that are willing to push you in directions that you're not comfortable with. And that was something we did every single day that we stepped on the court. We were uncomfortable, but it prepared us for the game. We were always ready. We knew our scouts inside out, and it was with the great leadership of our seniors when I was a freshman, and the leadership that you had hoisted in our program. So I'm always going to be excited to share our story about Pace University and women's basketball, and it's the reason why I'm sitting in this chair right now.
Let me ask you, I'm just going to ask questions as they pop
Yeah,
in my head, but a lot of people in your situation, playing in a very successful high school team, having big goals, being recruited by a lot of schools. A lot of people wouldn't have had the same reaction to the ACL injury as you did. Like, did you ever doubt, whether or not you wanted to play basketball still, or did you ever question whether or not you thought you could get back to playing basketball?
I think that question was always there, but I knew I couldn't give up on it. My parents had worked so hard from when I was in the fourth grade, trying to get me into AU programs and different basketball camps, and I knew I couldn't let them down. That was the one thing I wasn't willing to do, and so I knew that I had to give it everything that I possibly could in order to uh, show up and be ready. Even, I wasn't on the court for about a year. And so it took me a year to get used to the X and his nose, but I wasn't going to let my training or my physical abilities stop me from whatever you needed and whatever UMP needed for us to do. But I think that goes to also my mom and my dad, who supported me along the way. And we may get into that a little bit, but um, there's uh, there's there's different biases that we experience, and this is kind of changing tracks a little bit. But um, as a cultural bias, I come from a background that isn't really used to having women in sports, and I've had my family members say, hey, you should act a little bit more ladylike, or do different things that don't fit the traditional mold, or do fit the traditional mold, and I wasn't willing to succumb to that. And so I think as a society, as we're changing trajectories and being comfortable in the specific areas that we are in, believing in your roots, and also trying to push through some of those barriers that we experience on a daily basis.
Yeah. I do want to talk about your family. But I want to kind of stay a little bit on track with the basketball part first.
Yeah, for sure.
One question that I think it's hard to explain, and it's hard to tell people like what you see in certain athletes, what you see in certain recruits. What makes a coach, what makes a high school athlete stand out to a college coach. And a lot of them are things that we really can't put our finger on. It's just something that we have a feel for. And, you came in, worked like crazy to get yourself, you didn't ever look like you got out of shape through the injury. You came in and worked tremendously hard to get on the court. And for you, getting on the court was playing with a lot of talented people around you, playing with a lot of, high level scorers, all conference players. And like, what would you say to younger athletes? Like, what made you want to play the role of, I'm going to help this team win games. I'm going to help my teammates excel. And, I'm going to be happy with their accomplishments. And my job is just to do the small things that, turns into wins for the program.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a testament to our captains and our leaders and our upperclassmen. For me specifically, during, when I was a freshman and sophomore, they didn't allow you to cut a rep or half-ass a rep or be mediocre at anything, because you would get exposed, and no one wants to get exposed. And it was that consistent every single day. Our seniors and our captains came in with the energy and the enthusiasm that a leader would possess. And it was the upperclassmen that didn't allow the freshmen and the sophomores to skip a rep. And it was truly because of them that they set the example really high, and they didn't let us deter from that.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And I think as you grew into the program, and you became one of those leaders as well. And like one thing, when you talk about your upperclassmen, I believe it was your sophomore year when we really got banged up. Shields tore her Achilles. We had a lot of injuries. At one point we said it was like 6.5 players.
Yeah.
And and this was very early in the season. We went from being, full strength, thinking we were going to press every possession, to bam, we have 7 healthy people. And the first couple of games we played very cautious. We played like we only had 7 people, and we played like a very controlled half court game. And we lost the first 2 games, I think. And I remember the upperclassmen coming to me and saying, we're not happy. And I'm like, well, me neither, but this is a tough, it's a tough break for us. We only have 7 guys. They're like, no, we're not happy with how we're playing. We're not happy with that style. And I thought they were nuts, because like, there's only 7 of you. And they're like, well, we want to press. We want to press every single possession. And I said, okay. And every single person on that team held each other accountable. And like, this is it. This is all we have. There's 7 of us. We all got to buy in. We all have to, be prepared. Nobody gets a day off. Nobody gets to feel sorry for themselves. Everybody's got to buy in and stick with each other. And we did have great captains. I believe it was Laura Mooney and Taylor Losi. We did have great leadership, but you can't lead unless you have people that want to do it too. So, you guys as underclassmen were so responsive, and really just, you got to take some of the credit. You have good leadership when you have people that are willing to follow. And so that was that year, I think, no offense to anybody else on this call, but that probably was my favorite year at Pace. Winning the regional championship was cool too. That was fun. But the year we won 22 games with only 7 kids, and we looked like we were going to lose every game. If you watch warm-ups, everybody was like, oh my gosh, poor Pace. They're going to get smashed tonight. They're going to get killed. And we'd win, and the other team would leave the gym shaking their head, saying, how did that just happen? How did we just lose to 7 kids? And how did they press us every single possession? And we were exhausted at the end. The other team was exhausted, not Pace. But that was a big step, I think, in preparing us for the next 2 years where we had even more success. But Maral, I do want to talk about, I want you to talk about your family because that's a really cool story with your mom and dad, especially like your mom's experiences, you know, how different it was for her coming to the US and just what great role models they were for you.
Yeah. Back to just really quick, based on what you just said earlier about the team that had 7 or 6.5. It was a team that allowed you to take those experiences and not let up, and you could use those experiences later in life, and I think a lot of us have. To go to my parents, my mom and dad both came from Iran in after the revolution there, and it wasn't, they weren't able, or women weren't able to go to sporting events before the revolution happened. They were allowed, but that all changed very quickly, and I can't even imagine what that's like. I remember being in the NCAA tournament. I think it was my junior year, and one of my cousins from Iran had sent me a Instagram message like, "You're my hero. Like, I hope I can do what you do one day." And all she meant was play basketball, and it was something that I guess I took for granted because I've been playing since I was in the 4th grade and didn't really see the meaning behind it or the privilege that I have. And so for me, that was an aha moment. And with that being said too, I remember one of our seniors seniors who had graduated telling me, take every moment, and this was for my senior, take every warm up, every huddle, every little thing in our game, and take it seriously and take it to heart, because you never know when it's going to end. And so I've taken that with me, and my cousin's story and my cousin sharing that thought with me really gave me a step to appreciate it. But it wasn't until I was probably in grad school where my mom shared more feedback about her experience as a young adult and a young woman in her country. And she didn't know what AAU basketball was, and she was just trusting me, and my mom and my dad either. They were just trusting me to, one of my friends were doing it, so I was like, hey, this might get me a college scholarship. But they didn't know what that meant or what that was like. It was kind of them trusting me, but also seeing that I was decent at it. And it was kind of this like weird dynamic of me pleading, but them also supporting me back and forth. And so I'm so grateful for them. I will always be grateful for them, for the opportunities that they have afforded me to do what I wanted at the highest level, whether that was leaving New York and doing internships that were out of the norm, doing things that a strength and conditioning coach for a men's football team is unheard of. I would never be able to do that, where my mom grew up or my dad grew up. And so I think it's important for me to realize that and appreciate that. And really it's given me the, insight of looking deeper into myself and realizing my privilege.
That's a great story, and I'm glad your cousin sent you the message because I'm sure it gave you a little more inspiration. Probably helped us win a couple more.
No question.
Um, if you if when do you think at Pace? When do you think you decided that? I know you changed your major to biology, but when did you really see yourself as you knew for sure you wanted to get into physical therapy, strength and conditioning? And what do you think was I know your own experience, but just when did it kind of click for you? Like, yes, I'm more driven. This is my goal and my academic goal. And it kind of, when did it really just hit you that this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I mean, our team all knows this, but in the summertime, I would train with football players at a local college in the off season to get myself prepared. And it actually started when I was in high school, and I had taken some of that with me later. And I don't know that I knew if I always wanted to be in strength and conditioning, but I didn't know that the opportunity was going to be there because I hadn't seen anyone similar to me in that role. And so I knew what I wanted to do, and I was going to network and meet people that were going to teach me and guide me along the way that may eventually help me land a job within strength and conditioning and physical therapy. But I don't know that I knew it was possible until I got the call, to be honest. We all know in sports, it's such a transient and unexpected changes that happen all the time. And so that was the reason why I decided to pursue a physical therapy degree so that I could make myself stand out a bit. And within the NFL, there might be one or two other physical therapists or strength coaches who also happen to be physical therapists. And so for me, it was about how do I make myself valuable to an organization and bring value to, not because I'm a woman, not because I'm a strength coach who can add success and cultivate results for our guys. And so, to be honest, it was, I was probably 3 years ago. I was sitting in my home in New York eating pizza and watching the Super Bowl, and like my grandmother telling me, "Hey, like hopefully one day you could be on the sidelines here." And 2 months later, I had gotten a call from the organization with Tampa Bay, and they started interviewing me. And honestly, one thing happened after another pretty quickly, as you know, but I've always wanted to be in this role. I didn't know how that path was going to look or how it eventually happened.
Mhm. Oh, I mean, I remember you were visiting, and you and Brittany and I went out to get lunch, and you that was like on a Thursday, and
Yep.
you were going down to talk to maybe some minor league
Yep.
baseball organizations, and you weren't sure if you wanted to go. And then all of a sudden on Tuesday, you said, "I want to let you know before you read this, I got the job with the Tampa Bay Bucks." Like, did you know that on Thursday and you were keeping it a secret from us? Because we were like, I hope Maral finds something. She's been working so hard. And then bam, 4 days later, you're in all the headlines that, you got the job. But no, I think one thing that you've always done, and a lot of people talk about it, but not all of us can actually execute it, is that you've always, whatever situation you leave, whatever organization you leave a very good impression on them. You're very prepared. You're always looking to better yourself. And in doing that, you're bettering everybody around you. So I think you definitely worked your way into this opportunity, and the opportunity was there, and I'm sure everybody down at Tampa Bay would say the same thing, that they were just probably very impressed with you when you came down to interview. But one thing I listened to a lot of your interviews around the Super Bowl game, and one thing that I was impressed with, when a lot of the questions turned to did you set out to break glass ceilings? Did you set out to do this and make put a mark on this industry as a woman? And a lot of times you said, I can't wait for the day that it's not news that a woman is coaching in the NFL, or a female physical therapist is working in the NFL. Can't wait for that day where that isn't the biggest story. And I was impressed with that, because and when some of the people asked me, I said, I don't believe you ever set out to break these, barriers down. I think you were just being you, and you were the best person for the job, and that's why you got it. And I think now what you're saying, now other people see someone like themselves in this job. And so now it may be a realistic goal, where 5 years ago, it may not have been. But I was impressed that you didn't want the story to all be about the fact that you are a woman in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And I think I go back and forth with this because I do understand that I do understand the magnitude of being in the role that I am in and accepting it for for what it is and how others will see me. I was on a call earlier today with um, the athletic director with Yale and Portland State University, and they were a lot more experienced than I am, and they were sharing their insight of being the first in their roles and owning it. And so I go back and forth with that, if I'm being honest, of owning it because I should and I do, but I can't wait for, like you said, for the day that it's not newsworthy because it is commonplace and it is a societal norm that we don't need to talk about it, and other people are applying for it because there's organizations that are implementing initiatives that and they're doing something about it and not just sitting there and saying, hey, we want X, Y, and Z without actually implementing anything. And so I'm grateful to be part of an organization that put one step forward and afforded Lori and I the opportunity to be part of the coaching staff. And we do bring value. You know, one of our head coach says, like, and this is for anyone, if you're not going to do your job and not bring value, you're not going to be part of an organization. So you need to come forth and bring your best foot forward. And I agree. If I'm not doing my job the way I shouldn't be here. We're part of the organization. But I think it's important for me sitting here in this role to, and I'd like to pay it forward to other women and other girls that have reached out. And if anyone here has questions, I'd love to be a mentor to them too, because I didn't get here by myself. I got here because of other women and other people who have had successful ties and have gotten to where they wanted to get to with hard work and dedication. And it's because of them that I'm here, not purely because of myself.
You should take a little more credit than that. I mean, it's always good to surround yourself with good people, but I think, you certainly have put yourself in a situation to be successful. And I mean that with everything I've seen that you take on. If you were to, I know we're going to take questions, but, a lot of people are always trying to find out like what they should do, like what's going to make them the most successful. And without putting like words in your mouth, but it seemed like to me that everything you did was a good fit for you. Like you were always very true to yourself, like you chose this path, but that's also how you live. You're very disciplined. You're very motivated. You're physically, you take care of yourself the way you would take care of your athletes. So like, just to like, what would be your advice for someone who's not sure about what they want to do, is not sure about what path they want to get into? Like, what would be your general advice to a young woman now?
I think we struggle, or not, we don't struggle, but it's hard to know what you want to do and how you get there. And my path is going to be different than everyone else on this call. You can ask me questions and I can advise you on what my path was like. But we can have the same exact path and you may not get there, and that's okay. But my advice to people is that take the principles and the foundation of people that you are seeking out or in positions that you want to be in. You take the principles that they're teaching you and make it mold into your own life, right? So you don't, if I said, hey, I did from 1 to 10, this is what I did, this was my path, and I screwed up here, so make sure you screw up there, and you do that, you may not get there or even get close. It's important to pick your path, but also have guidance and be okay asking questions. Because the number one thing that I think got me to where I am today, and like you said, Carrie, I'm not done, is surrounding myself with people who continue to support me. So, I think it's being self-aware, knowing what you're good at, and also owning it, and being comfortable with seeking out relationships that may not be comfortable. Actually, a really quick story from when I was in high school even till this day, I was emailing the first MLB athletic trainer, Sue Falzone, who was with the LA Dodgers at the time, and asking her for just checking in. I would check in with her every semester and every quarter, and she would respond. I didn't think she would, but she did, and she kept up with me. And we finally met probably about 2 years ago after 10 years of emailing. And it was that relationship. She never told me what to do, but she answered questions that helped me shape my path.
That's good. It's which seeking out mentors or, just putting yourself in a situation to learn from professors, advisors, upperclassmen, and sometimes, being willing to hear the things that you don't want to hear from people are big, big steps to learning a lot about yourself. I think it's something that we struggle with coaches is trying to get people to work at things that they're not good at, and it's hard because you're not good at it. So you don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. But I feel like that's what you're basically saying is that those are the people you need to surround yourself with that, have your best interest at heart and, want to help you meet your whatever your goals are. And like with you, Maral, it's just whatever your immediate goal was. Your freshman year, you played in 25 games. We butted heads a little bit. So that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And every year it was like, okay, what's your goal? What do you want to do? You wanted to play. How am I going to play? Well, this is where, we'd say, okay, this is where we need help. This is what we need somebody willing to do. Okay. And you would take that on. But I think that's how you were with your academics. I think it's how you were with everything, your discipline off the court. Not that you weren't you had your fair share of a social life, but you were very disciplined. And I think you did take bits and pieces from people, and I could hear you like saying something that maybe, Patrina said in practice the day before. I'm like, okay, Maral was really paying attention, and the way you talk to even with the younger players, who didn't know at times maybe something that they were doing might be. I can remember I was talking to one of our freshmen, and you were a senior, I think, and she was laying down. She just finished stretching and she was laying down. And I was talking to her, and you walked by and you nudged her and you said, get up. And she was like, what? And you said, get up. She's like, that's disrespectful. Get up. I didn't take it as disrespectful, but I was like, all right, Maral, good. Tell her to get up. But it was a very casual conversation we were having. So I didn't see that. But I think you took the lessons that you learned from your family, your high school, people you reached out to in high school, your upperclassmen, your professors, and you took every bit of that, and it helped. Like you were like a sponge. And what do I need to take home with me so that it's going to help me better myself? And I think that's obviously a big reason why you are as successful as you are.
And Carrie, it goes. You had mentioned the minor league thing, and another lesson that is important for me to share, because I think everyone should hear it too, is know your value and know what, if you're going for a job or an interview or an internship, it has to be the right fit for you. Don't just check a box because it looks good. And so for me, that minor league team or major league team wasn't suited for me, but I didn't have another option. And I knew it was my step in the door, but I turned it down because my values didn't match theirs. And I want to make sure, and you guys should all make sure that you're, when you're stepping 1 foot forward into a building or an organization or that you have some form of autonomy and also able to have your voice heard. And I think that's so important and so valuable in so many ways in order to help yourself grow.
Okay. Well, I think we're getting closer. We're going to start taking some questions, I think, Sam.
Yes.
Okay.
So it looks like We do have one raised hand. So James, if you want to go ahead and you can unmute yourself. So you just go ahead and use the raise hand function, or you can write a question in the chat box and I can read it out if you are uncomfortable with that.
No, I appreciate your time. This is James McCrae, Lubin School, class of 74. First of all, MJ, congratulations. We're proud of you as a Pace grad, and congrats on the Super Bowl ring. I guess my question, and it's a recent question, is this: the league's now gone to 17 games with only 3 exhibition games. I know it's early, it's only one day, but how much do you think that'll change the strength and conditioning philosophy, the plan for an extended season? I imagine it'll be, I guess, 2 buys instead of 1, but what kind of early changes do you see firsthand on what you might have to do with the players?
James, thanks for your question. We're preparing now. We started to prepare last week, and we're not looking at our program and saying, hey, we're not getting ready for training camp. We're looking at it from a bigger scope. And so it's going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on the level of practice and the intensity of practice, and how the previous games were. And we have a lot of objective data that we follow, whether it's force plate jumps, the GPS units, their sleep, their recovery, all that's going to be critical. And coming off of a season of playing as many games as we did, adding another game is going to be an interesting mix. And I think we did a really good job with that. But we're going to also dig deeper and see where we can do better, how we can minimize. I got here, this will be the start of my 3rd season. When we first got here, I think Tampa was at the bottom of the list as far as injuries, or at the top of the list for injuries go, and we're at the bottom as far as having very few within the league. And so we want to continue to pursue our program and build on it. I think it's tough. Last year we didn't have our rookies come in, and the biggest difference between college and the pros is time with your players, and we don't have that, and it's voluntary, so to speak. And so it's a constant back and forth, but I think at this point, going into year 3, we've developed relationships with a lot of our veteran players who are gonna instill, and we've instilled a culture that is that has kind of catered them to buy in and trust the process. And so we hope to do that. I think the biggest thing though, James, is going to be recovery and making sure they're ready for Sundays. Thank you for your question.
Abigail.
Can you hear me? Is my mic okay? Okay. Hi, I'm Abby. So I know you talked about like reaching out to people, kind of having a mentor. So about 2 months ago, I reached out to a couple people on LinkedIn, and I had Zoom and phone calls, and like it was good. And I said thank you. I emailed them. Now that it's been like a month, I kind of want to reconnect with those people to keep the connection going. What do you recommend? Like you said, you would follow up with that woman every semester. Like, what would you say to keep it going?
Yeah, that's a good question, Abby. I think, I would update her on my schedule or new internships that I had going on, new things that occurred, or asking her for content to read or research that she thought was interesting that would help me grow. But also, it wasn't me always asking for a job, or I never asked her for a job. It was more about the relationship that we had fostered that kept it going. But I think you should continue to hit those people up on LinkedIn, and find their emails if they don't respond in a different way, or call them, because you never know who's going to respond and who's not. I think you keep doing it. That's great.
Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah. I know you've obviously never, been to a Super Bowl before, but was it talked about a lot, amongst maybe people that have been to the Super Bowl or staff there, how much different the experience was this year than kind of years past? Do you think it was kind of easier to focus on the game potentially, with all the restrictions and not as much hoopla going on around the game?
Yeah, Jim, I was about to curse. It was freaking crazy. I mean, this year was like a lot of us know, every couple of weeks, protocols were changing. The amount of people we were allowed in the weight room went from 15 to 10, and we got over 63 guys that we're trying to fit in to get their lift in and not cookie cut or anything. And we wanted to make sure that we didn't water down our program. We freaking worked to make sure nothing was watered down. And James, that goes back to what you were talking about, but bringing in and keeping the quality of our program and what the level of the guys needed to do at its highest level. But Jim, as far as obviously there was a lot less, the crowd was a lot less. I was so into the game, and I have a number of things that I do on the sideline during the game that I missed the flyover. That was really loud and in front of all of our faces, but it was chaotic like any other game, but we approached it like it was another game, not the Super Bowl. It just happened to be the Super Bowl.
Amanda?
Hi, Maral.
Hey, Shane.
So I know if anybody takes 2 seconds to talk to you, they know that you're an expert in your field, but I also know how professional athletes are and like how ego can come into play. Did you have any difficulty getting respect from any of the players at all? Or like, did you just come in and like, they knew you were all business?
Yeah, that's a good question, Shanna, and I get that question often. For me, it was, I came in and I had a different background than most folks. And so I wasn't there to be their friend. I tell my guys all the time, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to help you get better. I'm not here to get their autographs or do any of that shit. Like, that's not what this is about. This is about what I can do to come here and help you be better than you were yesterday or the year before. And I think they see that. They saw that very quickly. A lot of our veteran players bought into what I brought to the table. And I think the rookies and the younger guys saw that, and it was automatic. I think our scouting department does a great job of scouting, and we have quality men who are, are very authentic and true and just really good humans. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I feel very blessed to be within an organization and players who respect me, and they don't look at me as the woman coach. They see me as just another strength coach within our department.
Jim?
Yeah, I got another question. And maybe you don't need to really go into detail about it. But I mean, it's well known, Tom Brady, in his, preparation, his, his diet, the TB12 method, how much involvement do you have in stuff like that? Or, when were you introduced to this? Do you have any thoughts on the TB12 method and anything that kind of he does specifically? I mean, he's playing at such a high level at such an older age. You'd think that he's doing something right.
Yeah, when you have someone like that come into an organization who's done his thing for over 40 years with his method, you're not going to change that. And when we, don't try to change that. I think it's my honor to be in his presence and see and observe. I've learned a lot from just watching and observing how someone at that caliber prepares each and every day and the consistency behind it. It's a good question, but I don't work with him one-on-one. And he's got a great team that, we're all very close with his team, and they've shared insight and are willing to help us see it in a different way too. So I'm grateful to be part of a team that is collaborative on multiple levels. Thanks for your question, Jim.
And I have a chat box question from James. You asked about how to best care for young female athletes' mental and physical health. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all.
I would love to. Thanks so much, Samantha. And congrats, MJ. And great to see Pace alumni doing awesome things. I asked that question because I have a 12-year-old daughter who's heavy into basketball, lacrosse, soccer, but super basketball. And I was just wondering, is it too much too early? Like a lot of the AAU leagues and, just mental health and physical health, and when to push, when not to push, just in, that general sense.
Yeah, that's a good question, James. And I can't sit here and tell you that I have a great answer because I don't have a daughter, but seeing as a physical therapist and looking at the research with early specialization, I think it's definitely a thing. And by thing, I mean, you do see not just female athletes, but kids who specialize early end up having more risk factors for injuries later on. I think a lot of my friends who played in the WNBA before, when you hear their stories of what they've done, they played multiple sports up until the 8th grade. And I know it's hard to do that now because of the recruiting and the scouting process and all of that is so strict, and all the pressure that's being put on kids at that age. So I think it's great that you have her in multiple sports so that she's not stressing one joint or one area, and do what she likes to do. You don't want to force, that goes back to your mental health question, but forcing them to do something that they may not want to do may deter them from wanting to pursue that. But the fact that you're asking that question, I can tell that you're not you're not that kind of
Thank
father.
you. Yeah, I was always big into play multiple sports, use multiple muscle groups, and not overuse one set.
Yeah, I think that's great. But it's definitely a thing, and I don't have a great answer, to be honest. I'm sure I will if I have a daughter at some point in the future.
Yeah,
You'll have to let me know how it goes.
Definitely. Thank you. And hey, Coach Carrie, thank you. Julia's dad.
And then James.
Yeah, this is more of a question related to me and MJ. I guess your experience as a trainer would help. In about a year and a half, I'll be 70 years old. I used to run. I stopped running years ago. I had my hip replaced about 2.5 years ago. But I've been told as I approach my older years that I should focus more on strength training. And somebody had mentioned to me that I should buy a rowing machine to go along with the walking that I do. I walk 3 times a week now. I still do sit-ups, push-ups, and stretching. But what's your take on a rowing machine? I was told that strengthens your legs and your arms. Using your own experience, would you recommend the rowing machine? Like, do you use it like 3 times a week? I'd love to hear your analysis.
First of all, James, you look amazing. Not saying 70s old by any means, but you look great. I have a rowing machine in the other room, actually in my bedroom that I have. But I think it depends on if you have previous injuries that would cause your lower back to be injured. I think a rowing machine would be great to add. I'm not a what's it called? Rowing machine companies don't pay me by any means, but I will say that it's a different stimulus that you can introduce yourself to if done correctly. I think you should be coached on how to do it properly so you don't get injured. But back to what, we go full circle, right? Back to what I was telling James, changing up your stimulus often. And it depends at the end of the day what your goals are and what your strength goals are. But I think I'm always going to be a proponent of strength training and lifting, no matter what age you are, safely. So finding that right person or coach that's going to help you get there, I think, is important. And you don't want a cookie cutter approach. You want to individualize for James and not Joe down the street. And that's something I live by.
I've never had a back problem, fortunately, but with hip replacement, I always hear don't fall. And balance is one of the things that as you get older, I've been told, you need to be careful of. So strengthening your legs, your glutes, and everything else was always a priority. And I appreciate your recommendation.
Yeah, no problem. You look like you're strong as hell though. So keep at it.
I will. Thank you.
So we have time for one more question if anyone wants to jump in. Kristen.
That's my girl.
So I seen a couple of interviews where you did, you talked about sleep and the importance of sleep. For us non-athletes anymore, sitting at a desk for 16 hours, what's your best advice on sleep and stress and how to control it?
So actually, I don't know if I shouldn't promote this, but I got a new device thing that helps track my sleep, heart rate, resting heart rate, my body temperature, and all of these cool things that I think are cool, at least. And it has a 3D accelerometer inside of it, which is pretty cool. But I think as far as sleep goes, a lot of the things we tell our guys before we travel or before games is using the blue light if you're looking at a screen for a long period of time, keeping your temperature in your room or in your apartment or house like 65, 67 degrees, like keep it cool. No caffeine or alcoholic beverages after a certain point. I think for me, sleep is very important. I do feel a difference, and I see it because we track it daily on our guys, and I track it on myself because I want to make sure that I'm speaking or walking the talk as well. Talking the walk, walking the talk. But there's a couple of characteristics that you can alter that are modifiable within your environment. But at the end of the day, it's going to be on you, kind of like just being consistent and standing up. Like it looks like you could,
I could use a standing desk.
Yeah, for real. And not sit all day, because that's going to end up, with issues down the line. But this girl, I just want to give you a shout out, Con, really quick. This woman right here is one of the hardest working people that I had the privilege of playing with, and she was one of my upperclassmen, along with some of the other people on the call. Mooney, I think I saw, and Shields. I can't see everyone because I'm not technological savvy, but I just want to thank all of you for being a part of my success.
Well, we're proud of you, Maral.
Thanks so much, Con.
Great, and we've come to the end of our hour. MJ, my God, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We really appreciate it, and on behalf of our athletics director, Mark Brown, and the entire PACE community, we really wish you the greatest continued success. Send us a picture after you get the ring.
I will.
Be able to share it, so please do that. Carrie, Samantha, thank you very much for taking us through the evening. And please be sure to Google Setters Gone Virtual to see our upcoming alumni events. And have a great evening, everyone. Please stay safe. Again, MJ, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, MJ. Take care.
Bye.